Now, a ban on public gatherings of more than 8 people has gone into effect over in Sweden. It comes a day after the country's prime minister took to television to call on Swedes to do whatever it takes to fight COVID-19. Take a listen.
People's healths and lives are still in danger, and the danger is increasing. More people are getting infected. More intensive care beds are being used for treating seriously ill COVID patients. More people are dying.
For more on the story, we can go across to Marcus Carlson, journalist for TV4 News. Marcus, Sweden adopted a very different approach from the rest of Europe in dealing with COVID-19 in the spring. Why the sudden U-turn?
Well, I think there were hopes during the summer here in Sweden, Delano, that the second wave would be not as serious as the first wave due to the fact that the number of cases dropped so significantly. But those hopes have been dashed. And the pressure has really been rising on the government to do something about this. During the spring and during the summer, the Public Health Authority, led by Anders Tegnell, the state epidemiologist, he was really the face of the Swedish COVID response. But now that the number of cases is rising again, the government and Stefan Löfven, the Prime Minister, are feeling under pressure to take the reins back. And that's why they've introduced this new limit to public gatherings to 8 people. They've also introduced a ban on alcohol sales in bars and cafes and restaurants after 10 p.m. That too has taken effect.
Marcus, more than 6,000 people died in Sweden during the first wave of the pandemic. What's the situation like now?
Well, the situation is getting worse. Just to put this into context, a couple of months back, maybe we recorded 200 cases per day. One day last week, more than 6,000 cases were registered and recorded here in Sweden. So we've seen this massive rise, especially since the start of October. The good news, perhaps, is that the acceleration that we've seen in the past few weeks or so, last week it showed signs of slowing down, but the number of cases is still growing. The number of deaths is still growing as well, not as rapidly as we've seen in other European countries. Over the past 14 days, 3 deaths have been recorded per 100,000 inhabitants. That is a lower figure than in France, for instance, than in the UK and other European countries. So that's relatively good news, but as I say, the number of cases still growing, and remember, mortality, of course, is the lagging indicator, and there is a fear that the number of deaths will start rising again rapidly in maybe 1 or 2 weeks' time. Hospitals, they're not as strained as they were during the spring as of yet. The number of ICU cases not as high as we saw in springtime, and the hospitals are saying that they're better equipped now to fight COVID-19 than they were a few months back. But, as I say, there is this fear that things will still get worse. And that's also what the Prime Minister expressed yesterday in his address to the nation.
Marcus, thank you very much for the update. Marcus Carlson reporting there from Sweden.